Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Dr. Melissa Milanak, a clinical psychologist, executive consultant, researcher, and internally recognized expert on stress, anxiety, burnout, and sleep. For more than 20 years, she helps leaders, athletes, healthcare professionals, and everyday people improve their quality of life without sacrificing their mental well being, relationships, or success. She's also delivered on more than 100 keynote talk a year and recently gave a TEDx talk titled Sleep, Not the Impossible Dream. Right, Dr. Melissa, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
All right. So yes, Melissa, can you take us back to, when you were much more younger, right? So what were you like in your 20s and, what dreams were driving you back then?
I think that I always had dreams of wanting to find a career where I would be able to help people and be able to also find ways to have the balance of not having work be this thing that I had to do, but work being something that I got to do. Because I saw so many
Mm,
people that were bogged down by all of these stresses and requirements, and it became all consuming. And so for me, I was finding things that I was passionate about. For instance, I am a musician and not wanting that to be my career, but something that I could have as an outlet and finding a career that I could serve people and help. And that's why I became a psychologist to be able to first, I was helping people with trauma and stress and then really transitioned into helping people to sleep better because I learned that when you sleep better, you can truly help somebody have their life back.
exactly. I mean, sleep, I feel like that's one of the most underrated thing, right? Honestly, sleep just it helps a lot. So, like you said, it helps people have their life back, right? So,
Oh,
wow.
truly. I mean, you think about it,
Exactly.
sleep is important for everything that we do. People want to
Hmm.
focus on quality nutrition, but if we're not sleeping well, our body can't use those nutrients in the right way, and we actually crave things that aren't always the healthiest for us. If we want to exercise, but we're not getting the right amount of sleep, our workouts stop working for us. And so when we're
Exactly.
sleeping, it underpins everything for our memory and focus and attention, how our brain works, how our body works, our immune system, our ability even to experience positive emotions and have joy.
Exactly. Wow. Oof. Okay, so yes, thank you, Melissa, for that one. We're gonna be diving deeper into that, as the conversation goes by. But before we get there, right, what do you think are kind of like, or should I say, what mindset or habits did you develop in your 20s that still serve you to today?
Let's see. Some of the habits and methods. Well, I will say one is making sure that I got myself on a good quality sleep schedule because
Mm,
I knew, I mean, so that was something from my early 20s, recognizing that just because I could pull the all-nighter didn't always mean that I should or that it was the best thing for me. I also
mm,
made sure that I was taking specific downtime. I had read the research that individuals that take at least 11 days of vacation each year perform
mm,
better, are more likely to get the promotions and the bonuses. So I made sure that I actually, as much as I was working hard and, pursuing my degrees and such, that I did give myself that chance to have that decompression time because I think when we're young, we keep feeling like we have to push ourselves and we'll rest later. But by making sure that I took those breaks, that actually helped me to be more creative and more productive.
wow. All right. So, like you said, sleep and rest, those are really, really important, right? And the funny thing is, people who, because young adults today, we are wired to always just work, 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 and later would rest, right? But what we don't understand is that when you rest, you actually feel more recharged, like you feel the need to even do more, you perform better, right? When you also prioritize rest as much as you prioritize work. it helps you just do better, basically. So I think it's really important for people out there, to learn from you, right? To learn from you, prioritize sleep, prioritize rest. Exactly. So yes, thank you, Melissa, for sharing your wonderful story with us. And I want us to dive into what you're doing now, basically. So what first, drew you to psychology and, the study of stress, sleep, and well-being?
Well, so I was originally, when I was in university, I was planning to go to medical school. I wanted to be a doctor. And
Mm,
during that time that I was in school, 9/11 happened in the States, and I saw the impact of trauma and PTSD. And it was a few months later that I ended up spending part of my summer in Northern Ireland working with the troubles and the fighting that was happening there as well, and really started diving more into seeing the impacts of trauma and stress and anxiety on individuals and how that played such a significant role in how sleep became something that was impacted for individuals. But when you were fixing sleep, you were seeing that people were feeling less depressed and less anxious, and their PTSD symptoms weren't as strong, and addiction rates were going down. And so over the years, instead, I decided that I wanted to instead get a PhD, become a clinical psychologist, really work with individuals within military in those settings, within civilian settings, and across the human experience to better understand this impact of trauma and stress for people. But then I learned that when I was helping, not everybody was ready to face those things, but starting with sleep really helped individuals to be able to first mitigate those symptoms, start to feel better, be able to focus, start to feel like themselves again. And so over the years, I spent the last 7 years working back and forth in South Africa, doing work with communities that were displaced with post-apartheid and working with rehabilitation programs there for sleep and
mm,
for either students and children. And so I truly now get to travel around the world teaching people to sleep better, to stress less,
mm.
and how they can leverage that to improve every aspect of their life.
Wow. All right. Okay. So yes, while you were talking, I just remembered a friend, right? I had a conversation today, actually. So I do not know if I would call it insomnia, but he's unable to sleep, right? And he says it's not insomnia, but he is extremely stressed. But he cannot sleep. Sometimes he goes to bed 5 a.m. in the morning and then wakes up 7, 8 a.m. And I don't think that's a good sleep schedule, right? So what do you think are kind of like one of the causes why people are unable to, get quality sleep?
So there are a number of things. To your point, when you talk about stress, I'll touch on that in
Mm,
two different ways. So the
okay.
first thing is sleep can be considered a vulnerable state because when we're sleeping, we're not immediately at the ready to protect ourselves, to fight
Mm,
off a threat. And so for our bodies, whenever our brain is constantly scanning, and it's checking to see how tense someone's muscles are, how fast their heart is beating, how quickly they're breathing, because those responses are usually part of that fight or flight response when our body is preparing to protect us from a threat. And as our brain is scanning and checking the body, if it's noticing that we're in these heightened states of arousal, then our body isn't going to let us sleep because our brain
mm,
is thinking that there's a threat and something that could hurt us. And whenever we are under significant stress, we have those same responses. Our muscles tighten up, our heart beats faster, we breathe faster. And so, whenever there's stress, our brain and body are thinking that there's a threat that could injure us. So, it's going to be harder for it to let us relax and decompress. So, part of it is what's happening with us physically. The other part is what's going on within our minds. And so, for many
mm,
people, they will say that they feel absolutely exhausted, but they climb in bed and they can't shut their brain off. And so, what
mm,
happens there as well is we're so busy throughout the day, and our brain is designed to process information for us, to sort through everything that's happened throughout the day and determine what do we need to remember later and what are the things that we can set to the side or that we don't need to hold on to. And we don't always give our brain the chance to process because we go, 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 and we're so busy. And by the time it's time to climb into bed, now that's when our brain is trying to do all of that processing. I
mm,
equate it to you wouldn't take a casserole out of the oven and immediately put it in the fridge. You need to let it cool down. Now, there are tips and strategies to help your body to let you rest and your brain to rest. Would you like me to share those tips quickly?
Definitely, definitely.
So, for the physical body, one of the things that we can do is something called PMR, progressive muscle relaxation. So, for
Mm,
instance, if you took your shoulders right now and you held them up to your ears as high as you can and you held it as tight as you could, and then you quickly dropped it, most people would notice that they felt some tension and then it released.
mm,
When you systematically work through the body and you're tightening muscles and then quickly releasing them, and you're doing this head to toe, it helps to elongate the muscles, increase the circulation, relieve the tension, and this helps the body to start to relax. It slows down your
mm,
breathing. When your body's scanning, your brain is going to notice that, okay, the tension's releasing, there isn't as much of a threat, and it helps the body to prepare to rest. For people that experience movement at night, different twitching, periodic limb movement, restless leg, you can do this exercise before bed and it helps the body to relax. Some people report experiencing less pain, all different things for the physical body. And then for our mind, about 10 to 15 minutes before you're ready to go to bed, you want to take a notepad and a pen, no technology, and you want to do this activity outside of bed. And on the right hand side, you're going to write your to do list for the next day. I have to go to the bank. I have to go to the dry cleaners. I need to send these emails because you're going to lay in bed and think about everything that needs to get done. But instead, if you're writing it on that sheet of paper, now the to do list is there. You don't have to be thinking about it in bed, and you know it's right there on the nightstand when you get up the next day. So it gives the brain permission to shut off and stop planning. And then on the left hand side of that sheet of paper, you take about 5 minutes and you write everything that's running through your mind. I literally will have people set a timer because you want to force yourself to write longer than you think you should. And as you're writing and more is pouring out of your brain, you are going to feel exhausted. You're not creating worries. What you're actually doing is you're helping the brain to unwind, to get all of this dumped on the page, and you're going to see all of these things that your mind has been holding on to. You set it on the nightstand, you get in bed, and you're going to feel exhausted. And if your brain is still running and racing, you would actually get out of bed, write more, and then get back in bed. Just like you take a puppy and you put it outside when you're teaching it house training because you want it to go outside, you take your brain out of bed to do the thinking and planning so that it learns not to do that when you're in bed and it can more accurately shut off and allow your brain to turn off and your body to rest so that you can fall asleep faster. I think you are muted and
oh,
I can't hear you anymore.
oh my goodness, I was talking to the I didn't know I muted my microphone. All right, so like you said, progressive muscle relaxation, right? And then
Yes.
also no technology. Avoid
Well,
the
doing
use of mm,
that writing to get it all out of your brain and give your brain a few minutes to unwind before time to go to bed so that all the thinking
mm,
and processing can happen before you get in bed instead of the brain trying to think and process when you're in bed. That's why so many people feel like they need to listen to music or watch TV because they're trying to distract their brain to shut it off.
mm.
But if you let it do the thinking before you get in bed, then you don't need to distract it anymore and you can fall asleep faster.
Oh, right. So, like you said, journaling, write what's going on in your mind and also create a to-do list, right? Oh, wow. Okay. And I like that you mentioned some people, watching movies, right, to help take off their mind. Do you think that's also a good way to help sleep?
So, if you want to watch TV or read or do those things before bed, it's okay to do those things to help your mind to unwind, but we don't want to be
Yeah.
doing them in bed. See, we want your
Mm,
bed to be reserved for sleep and romantic activity, and that is it. Whenever we are
mm,
doing other things in bed, like watching TV or reading a book, now our brain gets confused. Should I be awake when I'm in bed? Should I be paying attention to what's going on? Or should I be resting and preparing to sleep? So it's fine if you want to watch TV before bed, but do that out of bed. sit on the couch, sit in a chair, read outside of bed. And when it's time to go to bed, that's when you put all the devices down and then you get into bed and your job is to sleep. If maybe
Mm.
you're a person where you're living in a small studio and the bed is the only place to sit, then you would want to sit at the edge of the bed and treat it like a couch, or sit on top
Mm.
of the covers. And then when it's time to go to bed, you get under the covers. We need to have something that triggers for our body and brain to know when it's time to sleep and when it's time to stay alert and awake.
Mm. Oof, wow. All right. So yes, thank you, Melissa. I just want to let you know I'm learning a lot, right? I'm even taking notes because whenever I hop on the call with my friend again, I'll say, you know what, Melissa said this is what you should do. Right. Okay, so yes, thank you for sharing that beautiful one with us, right? Another thing is, for people in their 20s, right? Who are, trying to balance ambition and well-being. What do you think are some of like the common mistakes you see them making?
So I think that what happens is when we are younger, because of the way that
Mm.
our body heals and because of the way that we have energy, because we can get by on less sleep and because we are trying to cram everything in, I think that many times we miss out on full experiences. So maybe
Mm.
it's the fact of, okay, well, there's 6 things that I want to get done today because I need to do all of those things. Or, you know what, I would love to take that trip, but I'm going to do that when I'm older because I need to get further ahead with what I'm doing here in this job. And there are certain times where we do. I spent my 20s in school, doing my PhDs and doing graduate work and doing those things. And I can understand that, but sometimes we are so pushed by achieving the next thing and the next thing and the next thing that we don't allow ourselves to enjoy the moment that we're in. And the fact that,
Mm.
you know what, maybe it's the time in your 20s to travel and hike that mountain while you have the health and you have the energy and the ability to do that. And the fact of realizing that if we are like we're talking here today about sleep and about rest, that if you're getting the full amount of sleep, I'm not trying to make people waste time in bed. I want to help
Mm.
individuals to be more efficient sleepers, to be able to fall asleep
Okay.
within 10 to 15 minutes, to sleep straight through the night, and to wake up and feel rested. Because when you're able to do that, you actually are more productive at your job. You will find that you are able to accomplish more, you have more energy, things, you're going to feel happier, your relationships are stronger. And so I think that
Mm.
we push ourselves to try to get as much done as we can. When we're younger, we want to be older. And when we're older and wiser, we wish we could be younger. I think
Mm.
also that when we're in our 20s, there are a lot of things that upset us and we care so much about what everyone else thinks. And I think
Mm.
that there's part of that where, yes, we want to be respectful and all of those pieces, but you're not going to be able to make every single person in your life happy. And some of the people that you're trying to make happy, what you have to do to make them happy may not be authentic for yourself. So I think giving yourself permission to be who you are and to figure things out. And if you make the mistakes, if no one is injured and nothing is burned down, it's okay. But,
Mm.
and allowing yourself that chance to rest, that time to process, that opportunity to be creative, to pursue your passions. Yes, we need to work. Yes, we need to make sure that we can pay our bills and be responsible and take care of people. I'm not saying to just throw caution to the wind, but I think that you will realize that when you're younger and you have the energy and the opportunity to do it, to be able to seize those things and allow your body that opportunity to rest. It's not wasted time, but it's actually keeping you healthier so that you can pursue your goals and your passions much longer and later into life. The people that are resting and sleeping well in their 20s are much healthier later down the road.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So yes, thank you, Melissa. And another thing, while you were saying something, I just remembered, it's almost related to what you just said. And this would be to younger adults, right? Give yourself love. And there's this word they say, or it simply means as young adults, right? Not just young adults, as humans, we are bound to make mistakes, right? We are all still figuring it out. So when you make a mistake, understand that you're human, right? Forgive yourself and just keep going. Because I feel like it's really important. Most of us are just stuck in a phase, probably because we made a mistake or life didn't turn out the way we wanted it to be. And then we just stay stuck in that position, right? So it's important that we know, forgive yourself, give yourself love, and just keep going, right? It's part of life. Mistakes are part of life. So just like I said,
And
keep
those pivot
going.
points
Mm,
can be the most powerful because those
mm,
pivot points are then what help you to figure out maybe it was the fact that you thought that you were really interested in one career and then you started to
mm,
do it and realized, oh, this isn't the right thing for me. There are also
mm,
lots of times where people make transitions and changes, or, I know there's that common phrase, fail forward, in the sense of what can I learn from it and how does that make who I am? And you'll hear so many people say that they don't have the regrets of the failures because of what they learned from it and how they took that
mm,
and that became the building blocks for the next piece. That's also where I talk about something called planned neglect, where
mm,
many times we feel like there's so much that we have to do and there are never enough hours in the day and we're young, we're trying to accomplish everything and prove ourselves, and then it feels like everything is out of our control. And so I
mm,
love this idea of planned neglect in the sense of
mm.
what are the things that I am going to choose to not do just as much as what I'm choosing to do. Just like they talk about, what's in the absence speaks to that. Are there certain things where, what, yes, I would love to cook dinner, maybe it's a young parent, they want to cook dinner for their kids every single night, but then they're spending the time doing that instead of spending the time with their kids while they're young. And maybe they say, you know what,
Mm,
tonight I'm going to order takeout and I'm going to neglect the cooking, but it's still going to be healthy and I get this time with my family. Or I'm
mm,
going to take this thing and shift there. And whenever we make those choices of what not to do, but we plan to neglect or not do, then that helps us to feel like we're back more in control of our life and we're choosing to be able to do the things that we truly want to prioritize instead of feeling like we're not accomplishing enough.
mm. Wow, exactly. Woo. All right. So yes, thank you, Melissa, for sharing that beautiful insight with us, actually. Personally, I would say I've learned a lot, right, that I'm going to start implementing in my daily life. And I hope my
Good.
listeners will do the same as well. All right. So, I would like to ask, right, looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of mental health and, workplace well-being?
I think what excites me the most is the fact that we are now able to have these conversations and that people are recognizing that it's not just the you snooze, you lose, and time is money, or who's the first person to show up and the last to leave. And if you're exhausted, that's just how it's supposed to be. Or if you're stressed, that means that you're dedicated. I'm so excited to see now that we're having these conversations and people are realizing that we hear the phrases self-care isn't selfish and people talking about how making sure that we actually are prioritizing strategies to deal with anxiety and to deal with the life stressors and to recognize that we don't just have to always be the simmering kettle that never gets to turn the burner off. And so the fact that people are acknowledging that there are resources that are out there are people to have the conversations, there are podcasts like this to be able to start talking through and realizing that you don't have to push yourself to burnout and exhaustion, but actually taking that rest is responsible and that's helping you to perform better. So I'm really excited to see those trends continue and awareness to continue and people focusing more on not selfishly, but taking care of themselves so that they can give more and perform better and have a better quality of life.
Hmm. All right. Wow. Ooh, okay. So yes, thank you, Melissa. And finally, right, I want you to, talk to someone out there because that is the sole purpose of my podcast, right? Giving advice to the younglings so we could learn, right? So if you could, talk to someone in their 20s who feel, overwhelmed, anxious, or burned out, right? What would you want them to hear?
I think a lot of what we've been talking about today, but
Mm,
is truly recognizing that it's okay that you don't have it all figured out. And maybe you're
Mm,
that person who always had that plan and you knew what you were going to do and the next step and the next step. And it's great to do that, but be open to the pivot. Be open to the fact that just because you have that plan and it's a great security in some ways, but sometimes those pause moments and those pivot moments can be the most powerful because of where they can take you that you may not have even ever imagined. And also
mm,
understanding that there's so much that you're doing and giving, and just because you're young doesn't mean that your opinion doesn't matter, doesn't mean that you don't have a lot to share, but also be open to learning from people that have gone before you and the information that they're sharing to you. They're not just telling you to slow down because they don't want you to move in front of them. Sometimes they have learned the lessons and they want you to not have to make the same mistakes. So,
mm,
appreciating the youthful energy, the drive, the excitement, the opportunity that it's okay to fail forward, but also learning from the wisdom of folks that have gone before and giving yourself permission to do what gives you joy, to give yourself permission to rest, but then also to be allowed to have that childlike excitement and don't have it be so much work that there's never any play.
mm. All right. Wow. Oh, okay. So yes, thank you, Melissa. And finally, it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment, right? You could either answer with a word or a phrase starting now. Would you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Okay, all right. So what is one thing you never compromise on when it comes to sleep?
I do not compromise on my, oh, so many things. I
Mhm.
make sure that I don't compromise on my sleep schedule and on making sure
Oh,
that I am getting what my body needs.
oh. Okay, all right. So are you a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl, definitely. I can
Hmm.
do mornings, but I'm a night owl.
Ooh, okay. One would have expected you to be a morning person, but it's fine. All right. So what is a book that that's had a big impact in your life?
So many books that have had a big impact in my life. Well, in the sleep world, I really like Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep. I think
Hmm.
that one gives people a lot of really great information, and I'm really excited about my upcoming book, Sleep for Success, that's coming out in a few months.
Wow. Okay, Sleep for Success by Melissa. Right, okay. And Why We Sleep. Also, you mentioned that too. And yes, finally, what is one word that describes this season of your life?
I will say service. How can
Hmm.
I serve other people and help them to be able to find their best versions of themselves and live their best lives?
Ooh, service, right. Wow. Okay, so yes, thank you, Dr. Melissa. I would say this has been such a valuable conversation, right? And finally, before we wrap up, where can listeners get, learn more about you and also connect with you?
So they can go to my website, which is my name, melissamelanik.com. I have free guides for folks. I have a video library, and there's the opportunity for folks to connect if they want to do a consultation. If they put in that they got connected through your podcast, they can do a free consultation that they can find there. And of course, I'm on social media, so Instagram and LinkedIn and such as well, where they can get access to those resources.
All right. Well, so yes, thank you, Melissa. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes so it's easily accessible for listeners. And to my listeners, I would say thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Melissa, and do have a beautiful day ahead of you.
You as well, and I will tell all your listeners sweet dreams.
All right, thank you.